Ambassador Mina walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. Her black shoes clicked on the crystal floor that stretched out like a frozen ocean. Above her, alien beings floated and shifted in ways that made her eyes water if she looked too long. The chamber was huge, so huge that Earth could fit inside it 3 times over. Floating platforms held different alien species, each one stranger than the last. The Zephyrians looked like living glass sculptures that sang when they moved. The luminals were pure light, wrapped in energy fields. The Nexari were part machine, part something else entirely. Mina had been here 46 times before. Each time, she hoped things would be different. Each time, the aliens laughed at her. "Oh look," chimed a Zephyrian, its voice like wind through broken bottles. "The little carbon creatures are back again." More laughter filled the air. The luminals pulsed brighter, which Mina had learned meant they found something funny. The next made clicking sounds that their translators turned into snickers and giggles. Mina stood straight and pulled out her datapad. She had spent months preparing her presentation. Charts and graphs appeared in the air around her, showing everything humans had accomplished. Cities that touched the clouds, ships that could cross between stars, art and music that moved people. 2 tiers, honored council members, she began, her voice steady, despite the alien laughter. Humanity requests membership in the Galactic Council. We have achieved. Achieved what? Interrupted a Nexari representative, its metal face twisting into what might have been a smile. You barely know how to leave your own planet without burning fuel. We have mastered space travel, Mina replied. Our ships can reach other star systems. This caused an explosion of alien laughter. The Zephyrians rang like broken bells. The luminals flashed so bright that the chamber's safety systems dimmed them automatically. Space travel, wheezed a luminal. They think moving through 3 dimensions counts as space travel. We have been watching your species for 200 of your years, said the Nexari fleet commander. You use chemical rockets. Chemical rockets. We stopped using those when our species was still crawling in mud. A Zephyrian floated closer to Mina. Up close, she could see through its crystal body to the swirling energies inside. Little human, do you know how many dimensions exist? Our scientists believe there are 11 dimensions, Mina answered carefully. 11. How adorable. The Zephyrian spun in place, creating a sound like wind chimes in a storm. There are at least 14, that we know of. We travel through 6 of them regularly. You struggle with 3. The luminals use 7 dimensions for their daily transportation, added another voice. The Nexari have mapped dimensional routes through 9 layers of reality. Mina felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept her voice calm. Humanity is still learning. We grow stronger every year. Our science advances your science. The entire chamber erupted in fresh laughter. You discovered electricity only 500 years ago. We were bending space-time before your son was born. Perhaps, said the prime speaker of the Zephyrians, its voice cutting through the noise like a crystal knife. If humans could show mastery over just 6 dimensions, we might consider giving you observer status, not membership. You understand. Just the right to watch us work. In a few thousand years, added a Nexari with what sounded like mechanical laughter. Mina looked around the chamber at the floating aliens. Some were taking bets on how long human civilization would last. Others were already moving on to more important business, dismissing her completely. We understand your position, she said finally. Humanity will continue working toward your standards. Oh, I am sure you will try, said a luminal, its light pulsing in patterns that made Mina dizzy. It is cute how hard you little ones work. As Mina packed up her charts and graphs, she heard whispered conversations in alien languages. Her translator picked up fragments, betting pools on human extinction, jokes about the pet species that thinks it can play with the adults, speculation about whether humans would destroy themselves with nuclear weapons or climate change first. The great doors opened for her. and Mina walked out with her head high. Behind her, the laughter continued. It followed her down the crystal hallways, through the transportation rings, and all the way back to her small human shuttle. She sat in the pilot's seat and looked out at the massive alien structures surrounding her. Ships the size of continents. Space stations that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Technologies that made human achievements look like children's toys. But Mina was not discouraged. She had been Earth's ambassador for 15 years. She had heard this laughter before. What the aliens did not know, what they could never guess, was that humans were much more than they appeared. As her shuttle moved away from the council station, Mina activated a secure communication channel. Mission Control, this is Ambassador Lee. Rejection number 47 is complete. Understood, Ambassador, came the reply. How long until they learned the truth? Mina looked back at the council station, growing smaller in her view screen. Soon enough. Soon enough. Ambassador Lee. Mina stepped off the transport pad, deep beneath the mountains of South Korea. The elevator had taken her down for 20 minutes, far below anything that showed on any map. Her ears still popped from the pressure change. Dr. Park. Jiho was waiting for her in what looked like an ordinary hallway. He wore a simple white lab coat and thick glasses that made his eyes look bigger. But when he smiled and waved his hand, the wall beside them simply disappeared. Another rejection, I assume? He asked, as they walked through the opening. Number 47, Mina replied, still getting used to walls that vanished at a gesture. They want us to master 6 dimensions before they will even let us watch their meetings. Jiho laughed. The sound echoed strangely in the corridor that seemed to stretch much further than it should. The walls curved in directions that made Mina's brain hurt if she thought about them too hard. If they only knew what we have been doing down here, Jiho said. They walked past rooms filled with impossible things. Scientists working with floating equations that hung in the air like solid objects. Machines that hummed with energy that made the hair on Mina's arms stand up. Computer screens showing star charts of places that did not exist in normal space. How many people know about this place? Mina asked. Maybe 300 total, Jiho answered. All handpicked, all sworn to secrecy. Some have worked here their whole careers without their own families knowing what they do. They reached a massive door marked with symbols that seemed to shift when she was not looking directly at them. Jiho pressed his hand to a scanner, then spoke a password in a language Mina did not recognize. The door opened onto something that should not exist. The hangar was enormous. But that was not the strange part. The strange part was that it felt bigger on the inside than it looked from outside. Much bigger. The ceiling stretched up into darkness that seemed to go on forever, and in the center, floating 3 meters off the ground, was humanity's greatest secret. The ship was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It was huge, maybe 3 kilometers long, but it seemed to exist only partly in normal space. Parts of it faded in and out like a mirage. Other parts looked solid one moment and transparent the next. Looking at it too long made Mina dizzy. The transcendence, Jiho said quietly. Our first true dimensional vessel. How long have we had this? Mina breathed. The ship itself has been complete for 3 years. But the project started 62 years ago. Captain Kim Sahi materialized beside them. Literally materialized. One moment there was empty air. The next moment there was a woman in a strange uniform that seemed to be made of shadows and starlight. Captain Kim, Jiho said. How goes the final testing? All systems are perfect, Kim replied. Her voice had an odd quality, as if it was coming from very far away. We can enter the 7th dimension whenever we choose. The aliens scanning our space cannot detect us when we are there. The 7th dimension. Mina stared at the ship, but the council species say that is impossible. Even the Nexari, with all their technology, can only work with 9 dimensions. The council species are limited by their thinking, Jiho explained. They built their science on rules. We built ours on breaking rules. Kim gestured to the ship, and suddenly Mina could see inside it. The walls became transparent, revealing levels and rooms that folded in on themselves in ways that made no sense. 62 years ago, Kim continued, a probe crashed in Antarctica. Not one of ours, not from any species the Council knows about. It was old, very old, and it contained technology that most of the galaxy thinks is just theory. Who built it? Mina asked. We never found out, Jiho said. But studying it taught us things that the greatest minds in the Council would call impossible. How to exist in 7 dimensions at once. How to see across all layers of reality. How to move through space without touching space. They walked closer to the ship. Up close, Mina could see that its hull was covered in patterns that hurt to look at, lines and curves that seemed to exist in more directions than her eyes could follow. This is why the Council laughs at us, Kim said. They see our primitive rockets and think that is all we have. They do not know we have been watching them from a place they cannot see. Watching them, Mina felt a chill run down her spine. The 7th dimension lets us observe all the lower dimensions at once, Jiho explained. We see everything they do, every meeting, every battle, every secret plan. They think they are the masters of space, but we have been their unseen guardians for decades. Kim's expression grew serious. 17 times in the past 10 years, we have prevented disasters that would have destroyed entire star systems. The Council species never knew they were in danger, never knew we saved them. The void plague near Kepler 442, Jiho added. The reality cascade at Vega. The temporal anomaly that nearly tore apart the Wolf system. All stopped by us, working from the 7th dimension. Mina looked up at the impossible ship floating above them. And they still think we are primitive. Let them think that, Kim said with a small smile. For now. But very soon, they will learn what humanity has really accomplished. Thunder rumbled overhead, but there was no storm. It was the sound of dimensions bending. The emergency alarms screamed across every ship in the Galactic Council fleet. Red lights flashed in the crystal chambers of Zephyrian vessels. Energy fields pulsed with panic aboard luminal ships. Nexari computers calculated the same terrible answer over and over again. Admiral Veltar floated in his command chamber, his crystalline body vibrating with fear. Through the viewing ports, he watched another star system die. The lights that had shone for millions of years simply went out. Like someone blowing out candles. Report, he commanded, though his voice cracked like breaking glass. The Rigel system is gone, sir, his navigation officer replied. Her crystal form flickered with distress. Completely consumed. Just like the others. On the screens around them, tactical displays showed the terrible truth. 23 star systems had vanished in the past month. Not destroyed, not blown up. Simply erased. As if they had never existed at all. The beings responsible were unlike anything the Council had ever faced. They called themselves the Devourers, though that name came from the few survivors who had escaped their attacks. They were massive creatures, each one the size of a moon, but they existed only partly in normal space. Energy weapons have no effect, reported the weapons officer. Our most powerful crystals pass right through them. Admiral Veltar turned to his science team. What do we know about these creatures? They exist in the 5th and 6th dimensions. Primarily, came the reply. Our sensors can barely detect them. When they attack, they seem to consume not just matter and energy, but space itself. Across the fleet, similar conversations were happening on every ship. The Luminals had discovered that their light-based weapons simply passed through the Devourers, like shooting at shadows. The Nexari's advanced computers could calculate the creatures' positions, but could not find any way to hurt them. Captain Zexhai, of the Luminal fleet, watched his crew struggle with readings that made no sense. His officers were beings of pure energy, but even they seemed dimmed by fear. Sir, called his science officer, her light pulsing weakly, We have identified the pattern of their attacks. Show me. The main display lit up with a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked where the Devourers had struck. Zexai studied the pattern and felt his energy field grow cold. They are targeting our most advanced civilizations first, he whispered. Was true. The Rigel Consortium had been masters of dimensional physics. The crystal cities of Andromeda had controlled reality itself. The machine worlds near the galactic core had computed solutions to problems that other species could not even understand. All gone now, all consumed. Why are they taking the advanced worlds first? Asked his tactical officer. Because Zexai realized with growing horror, they are saving the weakest for last. Like predators who eat the strongest prey first. On the Nexari command ship, Fleet Commander Unit 7742 processed probability calculations that all returned the same impossible result. Its mechanical brain ran the numbers again and again, hoping for a different answer. Analysis complete, it announced to its crew. At current consumption rate, total galactic extinction will occur in 47 standard cycles. The other Nexari units processed this information in silence. Their advanced computing power, their mastery of 9 dimensions, their perfect, logical thinking, none of it mattered against an enemy they could not touch. Recommendation, asked a tactical unit. Unknown, no viable solutions detected. Deep beneath Earth's surface, Dr. Park Ji-ho monitored the crisis from the 7th dimension. Around him, screens showed the Devourers' movements as they swept through space like a plague. They are getting closer to human territory, he reported to the emergency council gathered in the hidden chamber. General Wan Taik, a stern man with gray hair and steady eyes, studied the tactical displays. How much time do we have? At their current rate of consumption, replied Captain Kim Se-hee, her form flickering slightly as she stepped between dimensions. They will reach our outer colonies in 6 days. Are the council fleets requesting our help yet? Asked Ambassador Lee Mina. Dr. Park pulled up recordings from intercepted council communications. On the screens, alien leaders debated desperately. The Luminal High Command suggested asking for human assistance, Ji-ho said, with dark humor. The suggestion was rejected by the Zephyrian Council as desperate foolishness. They watched as Council Admiral Veltar's image appeared on screen. Humans, his translated voice said with disbelief. The primitive species that uses chemical rockets. What could they possibly do against enemies we cannot even touch? They think we are the weakest civilization in the galaxy. General Wan observed. Captain Kim studied the movement patterns of the Devourers on her displays. Strange energy readings flowed around her as she used 7th-dimensional sensors that the Council could not even imagine. General, she said quietly, I do not think their attack pattern is random. What do you mean? They are not just eating the strongest civilizations first. Kim's expression grew grim. They are eliminating every species that might be able to fight them. And they are saving what they think is the weakest US for the very end. Like saving dessert for last, Mina said. Exactly. They think humans will be easy prey after they finish with the real threats. General Wan stood up slowly. Around him, the impossible technology of humanity's secret project hummed with power that the Devourers could not detect. Then it is time, he said, to show them how wrong they are. The space around the Zephyrian fleet suddenly tore apart like paper. Reality itself seemed to rip open as something massive pushed through from somewhere else. Emergency alarms screamed across every ship as sensors detected the impossible. Admiral Veltar's crystal body went completely still as he stared at the main display. Where empty space had been moments before, a ship now floated. But calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a rock. The vessel was enormous, easily 3 kilometers long, but that was not what made the alien crews panic. The ship existed wrong. Parts of it seemed solid, then became transparent. Other sections appeared to be in 2 places at once. Looking directly at it made eyes water and minds ache. What in the crystal depths is that thing? Whispered Veltar's navigation officer. Energy readings are impossible, reported the science team. It exists in dimensional layers we can barely detect. 8 different spatial locations simultaneously. On the luminal flagship, Captain Zexhi's energy field pulsed with confusion and fear. His light-based sensors were going crazy, showing readings that could not be real. Where did it come from? He demanded. Unknown, sir. It just appeared, as if it stepped out of a dimension that does not exist. The Nexari fleet commander ran emergency calculations. Every result came back with the same word: impossible. Then the unknown ship opened communication channels. A calm female voice spoke in perfect council standard, but with an accent none of them recognized. Galactic Fleet Command, this is Captain Kim Sahi of the UES Transcendence. We are here to assist with the Devourer crisis. The silence that followed lasted exactly 4.7 seconds, according to Nexari time measurements. Then chaos erupted across all communication channels. Impossible, crackled the Nexari fleet commander's mechanical voice. Humans lack the technology for dimensional travel, much less the massive ship suddenly vanished from all sensors. Then, it reappeared inside the Nexari defensive formation, having somehow passed through energy shields that could stop planet-killing weapons. It had moved through their defenses, like they did not exist. As I was saying, Captain Kim's voice continued pleasantly. We are here to help. Admiral Veltar found his voice first. Human ship, identify yourself. How did you achieve dimensional transit? We have been monitoring this situation from the 7th dimension, Kim replied. Her ship was now showing on scanners in 17 different locations at once, which should have been completely impossible. We understand the nature of the Devourer threat. Dr. Lee Hanna's voice joined the communication from the Transcendence's science station. The Devourers exist primarily in dimensions 5 and 6, with anchor points in the 7th dimension. That is why your weapons cannot touch them. You are saying, Veltar's voice cracked like breaking crystal, that humans have mastered technology, among other abilities. Yes, Captain Kim confirmed. We have been protecting this galaxy for 60 years, usually without anyone knowing we were involved. The revelation hit the combined fleet like a shockwave. Across hundreds of ships, alien crews stared at their displays in disbelief. The species they had mocked for decades. The primitive humans with their chemical rockets had technology beyond anything the Council possessed. A young luminal science officer whispered to her commander, Sir, remember the void plague at Kepler 442? It just disappeared overnight. No explanation. The reality cascade near Vega, added a Nexari data analyst, processing old files at lightning speed. Massive dimensional distortion, then everything returned to normal. No known cause. The temporal anomaly at Wolf 359, said a Zephyrian navigator. Our best scientists said it should have destroyed half the sector. It just ... stopped. Captain Kim's voice carried a note of quiet pride. That was us. The void plague, the reality cascade, 17 major extinction events in the past decade. We kept the galaxy stable while you debated whether we deserved a seat at your table. Admiral Veltar's crystal form flickered as he processed this information. The betting pools, ... the jokes about human extinction, ... You heard all of it. Observation allows us to monitor all lower dimensional activities, Dr. Lee explained. We have watched every council meeting, every private conversation, every secret military briefing for 60 years. The communication channels fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had not just been watching, they had been protecting. While the council's species laughed at human primitiveness, humans had been saving their lives over and over again. Why? Asked Captain Zexhi, his energy field dim with shame. Why protect us when we treated you so poorly? Because that is what advanced civilizations do, Captain Kim replied simply. They protect those who cannot protect themselves, even when those people do not know protection is needed. On the Nexari command ship, Fleet Commander Unit 7742 ran new calculations. The results were still impossible, but now they made sense in a terrifying way. Query: how long have humans possessed seventh-dimensional capability? Long enough to— No, you were in danger before you did, Kim answered. Long enough to prepare for this day. Through the viewing ports of every ship, the crews could see the transcendence floating among them. It no longer tried to hide its true nature. Energy flowed around its hull in patterns that existed in 7 dimensions at once. Weapon ports opened to reveal technology that made their most advanced systems look like toys. The Devourers are coming, Captain Kim announced. We suggest you move to safe distance. This may get interesting. The Devourers came through space like a disease, their massive forms rippling between dimensions. Each creature was the size of a moon, covered in darkness that seemed to eat light itself. They had sensed the seventh-dimensional presence and turned their full hunger toward the human ship. Captain Kim Sahi stood calmly on the bridge of the Transcendence as reality bent around her vessel. Through the viewing screens, she could see the alien fleets pulling back to what they hoped was a safe distance. Their ships looked like toys compared to the approaching monsters. Weapons Officer Cho Min-jae, she said quietly, begin seventh-dimensional bombardment pattern. Yes, Captain, Min-jae replied from his station that existed in 3 different dimensions at once. The Transcendence's weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. When they fired, the energy beams existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. They struck targets in normal space, hyperspace, and 5 other layers of reality that most species did not even know existed. The first Devourer to be hit stopped moving. Its massive form, which had been rippling between dimensions, suddenly became solid. Then it began to fall apart, like a puzzle with missing pieces. Admiral Veltar watched from his crystal command chamber, his sensors barely able to track what was happening. How are they hitting targets that exist partially outside normal space? The human weapons exist in 7 dimensions, his science officer replied in an awed whisper. They are striking the creatures at every point of their transdimensional existence. On the luminal flagship, Captain Zek's high-S energy field pulsed with amazement. His crew had spent thousands of years perfecting light-based weapons that could barely scratch normal matter. The human ship was casually destroying beings that existed across multiple dimensions. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human ship's weapon signatures. They are moving through time itself. It was true. The Transcendence's attacks hit the Devourers in the past, present, and future, all at once. The ancient creatures, who had consumed entire civilizations for millions of years, found themselves facing an enemy they could not understand. Dr. Lee Hanna coordinated the assault from her science station, her hands dancing over controls that existed in dimensional space. Around her, holographic displays showed the battle from 7 different perspectives at once. Targeting their 7th-dimensional anchor points, she reported. Once those are severed, they cannot maintain coherence across multiple dimensions. The second Devourer tried to flee, retreating into the 6th dimension, where no known weapon could follow. The Transcendence's guns simply fired into the 6th dimension and destroyed it there. Impossible, breathed the Nexari fleet commander, his mechanical brain struggling to process what he was seeing. No species in the galaxy has weapons that can target 6-dimensional space. Correction, replied his tactical unit. No known species had such weapons. Human technological capabilities were severely underestimated. The third and largest Devourer, ancient beyond measure, tried a different approach. It began to split itself across multiple dimensions, becoming dozens of smaller versions of itself. This was a defense that had worked against every enemy it had ever faced. Captain Kim smiled. Clever, but not clever enough. Min-jae, Pattern 7. Pattern 7, Yes, Captain. The Transcendence fired a single shot that somehow became 1,000 shots, each one perfectly aimed at a different dimensional fragment. The ancient devourer watched in its final moments as every piece of itself was destroyed simultaneously across all layers of reality. Across the watching fleets, alien crews stood in stunned silence. The beings that had consumed 23 star systems, that had destroyed the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, were being eliminated like insects. "How long have humans been able to do this?" whispered a young Zephyrian officer. "Long enough," came Admiral Veltar's reply, his crystal voice filled with shame. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, the space where the Devourers had been was empty, except for fading energy signatures that existed in dimensions most species could not detect. Captain. Kim opened communication channels to all remaining ships in the fleet. "Threat eliminated," she announced calmly. "The Devourers will not be returning to this galaxy." The question came from dozens of alien voices at once. "How?" "We have been studying them for 60 years, Kim explained. "Ever since our deep space sensors first detected them stirring in the void between galaxies. We knew this day would come, so we prepared." 3 months later, Ambassador Lee Mina stood once again before the Galactic Council. But this time, the massive chamber was silent, with respect. No laughter echoed through the crystal halls. No jokes about primitive humans passed between alien representatives. "Humanity," announced the Zephyrian Prime Speaker, his voice carefully respectful. "We offer our formal apologies for our past, short-sightedness. We extend not just membership in the Galactic Council, but a place among the leadership." "We accept," Mina replied graciously, "with one condition. No species should be judged by their apparent limitations. True strength often hides beneath a simple surface." The Council voted unanimously to approve humanity's new status. For the first time in galactic history, the newest member was also granted immediate access to the highest levels of government. As the ceremony concluded, the Transcendents quietly slipped back into the 7th dimension. From their invisible position, Captain Kim and her crew resumed their silent watch over the galaxy. The species that had once laughed at human primitiveness now looked to Earth for guidance, never fully understanding that their protectors had been watching over them all along. In the betting pools that had once wagered on human extinction, new bets were placed on which other impossible technologies humanity might reveal next. But in the 7th dimension, Captain Kim simply smiled and continued her eternal vigil, knowing that sometimes the greatest strength came from being underestimated.